his house ain't a home and he's losing sleep. Wife cold as steel, vibe off track. Ask me how the hell to get his edge back.
What's going on, guys? We are live on Tuesday, and I have a really good sponsored video for you today. I'll get right into it. If you guys are new to this format, I just get right into it. So I got an email from a guy. The subject line is frustrated with flaky women and first date failures. Hey, is that like everybody out there? Flaky women, am I right? So, guys, drop a 1 in the comment if you hate flaky women and how absolutely flaky women are, especially on the dating circuit. It's absolutely ridiculous. He says, hey, Paul, I've been back out on the dating circuit for a few months now, and honestly, I'm feeling pretty frustrated. It seems like every woman I talk to either flakes after 1 or 2 texts, or when I finally do get a date, it's almost always a one and done. We'll have what feels like a decent time, but then she doesn't want to see me again. I'm wondering how long it's been since the last time he was out on the dating circuit, because this sounds exactly like me. After I was married for 14 years, I hadn't been out in the dating circuit in 15 years. And it was like a night and day. It was a totally different experience. Chicks were flaky as hell. I was getting frustrated. I basically spent 11 months floundering around on the dating circuit. This was back in 2014. So I'm wondering how long it's been since the last time he was on the dating circuit. But I'll tell you what, if you're meeting women on dating apps, you have to understand that women have an infinite amount of options. They have way more options than you do. Even like the overweight bar hogs in your area are getting hit on by guys on the dating app. Okay. So women overwhelmingly have more options on dating apps. In fact, a lot of guys get mad at that, but the truth is that's pretty accurate to real life too. I remember a couple of years ago, Nurse Chick and we went to a local bar in Montrose called Town Hall Tavern, which is it's a dive bar in Montrose. And I remember going in there with Nurse Chick. We went in there. They had a DJ playing like house music or something. And I just remember, looking around, and there was about an 80-20 split between dudes in the bar and women in the bar. And so 80% of these guys were all trying to get the attention of like these 5 chicks that were in the bar. And it was like, yeah, that's basically how dating apps are. Dating apps are the same way. It mimics real life, right? But the thing is about women, and this is one thing I learned years ago, man. I went on a men's retreat with a good friend of mine in the space. He used to be a dating coach. Now he's a breakup coach. Helps you get your ex back kind of guy. And he put on this retreat, and I went out to go hang out with him and a bunch of my 3% brothers from the original 3% man group. And this was out in Lake Lanier, Georgia. And I remember one of the things that he was trying to teach us was like why we should not do dating apps, why we should not do dating apps. But all of us guys were dating app guys, right? So what we gathered from his presentation on why not to use dating apps was how to use dating apps more efficiently. And one of the things that he was pointing out was that women are judging your messages by the preview pane. Okay. You send a message out, they have so many options. They're just filtering messages out through the preview pane, and you have about 7 words to capture her attention. Now, usually when I talk about this as an opening line, right? When you're opening with a girl, she's usually going, okay, does he have a slick opener? Okay. And then what she does is she looks at your profile pictures. Okay. So if you have crap pictures, she's not going to want to talk to you, right? So if you have decent pictures, then the next thing she's going to look at is your bio. And like, if you have a decent bio that's pretty short, like shorter is better on dating apps for your bio, like less is more. Okay. So if you have decent pictures, decent bio, now she's going to interact with you. That's how women operate on dating apps. And so that also carries over to your text conversation. So if you open her and she likes your opener and then you're boring she's going to look at that in the preview pane and be like, I'm not going to talk to that guy. I'm going to talk to this other guy who's more exciting. Okay. So that's why a lot of guys get sort of ghosted after one or two texts on messages, because their texting is very boring. Okay. You gotta be fun. Women want to be with a guy that's going to be fun and exciting. All right. But you got to think of it like this. Okay. A lot of guys are like, that's unfair, that's BS, it's such nonsense, and women, blah, but it's a lot like social media. Okay. In order for, let's say, a TikTok or, a reel or short to go viral, you have about 3 seconds to capture people's attention to stop them from scrolling, or else they're going to just skip your video. Okay. So that's why hooks are so important when you're making social media content. You've got to have a hook to draw them in. Well, that's your hook. Your messaging, your text messaging has to be fun and playful so that she's hooked, so she wants to keep that interaction going. If you're not hooking her, if you're asking her boring ass stuff like, so how was work today? How was your day? What's your favorite color? It's like boring crap that women are like, okay, I'm moving on. I'm moving on to this next guy who's fun and exciting. All right. So like it or hate it. If you're a boring guy, learn to not be a boring guy, or else learn to be alone. Okay. So the thing is that, why wouldn't women do that? Women, if they have all these options and they're looking for their best option, right? That's their hypergamous nature. I keep bumping this with my sweet ass cowboy hat. Keep bumping this thing here. Women are looking for their best option, right? So if you say something boring, they're just not going to reply. They're like, I've got better options. I got better options over here. And as far as your one and done dates, I mean, honestly, most dates are going to be one and done. Dating is a numbers game. Okay. Even if you find a chick that you really connect with on a dating app, chances are good that her pictures are 10 years old and she's going to look way worse in person, and you're going to end up on a catfish date. Okay. Which we'll talk about here in a minute, but that's not going to work out either. You're not going to like that chick, right? You're going to reject that chick, right? So most dates aren't going to pan out on the first date. And this is why you want to keep first dates low investment. A lot of you guys, very old school, you want to take every girl out to a fancy dinner and treat her right, give her flowers and all this kind of stuff. Like, that adds up over time. Okay. And if you want to be more efficient when dating, you got to date multiple women. You always got to keep a line in the water, right? Like that's a fishing reference. You always got to keep a line in the water. Okay. Even when you start chatting with these chicks, and this is what a big mistake most guys do, is they start chatting with these chicks. And once they get a live one, they go all in on that one and they forget other girls. They stop swiping, and like, guys get the sniper dating mentality. Stop doing that crap. Okay. If you start a conversation with one chick, keep swiping, keep sourcing new women. All right. You want to pack up your dating schedule with as many women as possible. And a lot of guys are like, what? Like, I can't even get one date. How would I be able to get 2 or 3 dates? We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you want to keep your options open. So when you do get flakes like this, or the one and done dates, you don't care because you have other options yourself. Okay. The women date very efficiently. Okay. We call it spinning plates. Women just call it dating. That's how women naturally date. All right. So anyway, he goes on to say, one of my biggest sticking points is physical escalation. I keep waiting for some kind of clear, undeniable sign before I even try to kiss her. Aha. So the penny drops. The penny drops. See, this was my biggest mistake when I found myself back on the dating circuit after divorce. So back in 2014, I said I spent 11 months floundering on the dating circuit. This was the biggest thing, because my divorce happened like right after the Me Too movement. I was afraid to make a move. I just didn't have the gumption to just go in and go for a kiss. And so I was literally waiting for like a written invitation. I had to ask permission, right? And so dates just didn't pan out. Because the thing is, even though women, this always gets me in trouble. Even though women say they want consent, they don't want consent. They want you to pay attention to their body language and their cues. Okay. Your consent is given when she's receptive to you going in for a kiss. Okay. If she's not receptive to that sort of thing, she's going to turn her cheek, or she's going to say, oh no, not right now, whatever. And then you just have to respect that and back off. Okay. That's consent, right? But if you go, hey, can I kiss you? Is it okay if I kiss you? Do I have your, that will dry up a vagina. I can say that we're after the 8-minute mark. Okay. So that was one of my biggest mistakes. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't until the second time that I ended up back on the dating circuit. So I ended up, for you guys that are new to the channel, I ended up in a 4.5-year relationship after my divorce with a gal that I call red pill chick, because I didn't get red pilled after my divorce with my now ex-wife. I got red pilled after red pill chick. And red pill chick was super forward, man. Like, she basically attacked me in a Applebee's parking lot. And at that point in my life, because I was this guy afraid to make a move, I needed that. I needed that forwardness from a slutty slut. You know what I mean? So I ended up in this relationship that I probably shouldn't have been in for 4.5 years. And when I found myself back on the dating circuit, the first date I went on, I had the same problem. Okay. I went for a coffee date, which I don't recommend. Personally, I met nurse chick on a coffee date. That's a whole other episode, but I typically don't recommend coffee dates, because coffee dates put out a friend vibe, right? If you want a girl to be your lover, you got to do what lovers do and be in an environment that sort of puts out that lover vibe, that seduction vibe, and that's why drinks in the evening is better, but it's still low investment. Okay. If you don't like the girl, if it's not going well, it can be over after one drink. Okay. But forget buying all these women, all these starving women out there. You don't owe them shit. Okay. So just drinks only for the first date. Well, anyway, I go for a coffee date with this chick and things are going well. And then after we're done with our coffees and stuff, we go for a walk around the building, and then I walk her to her car, and I went in for a hug like a pussy, right? I went in for a hug. And on my way home, I get in my car, I get a text message from her going, I'm really disappointed you didn't try to kiss me. And I was like, what? I was shocked by it, because I was like, she was not putting out any obvious signs that she wanted to be kissed. What did I miss? And then I had this flashback to when I met my wife. Okay. When I met my now ex-wife, I remember distinctly, she's standing in front of me, and before I let her go, because we had met at a party and she was getting ready to go home, and I was like, if I don't go in for a kiss right now, I'm going to regret it. And I just went for it. Right. And next thing I know, a year later we're married, and then a couple of years later we have kids, and they're wonderful kids and everything like that. But it was because I wasn't a pussy and I went for the kiss. And so after that moment, after that first date after red pill chick, I was like, fuck it. I'm not gonna look for any kind of written invitation. If I like this chick, I'm gonna go for a kiss no matter what. And after I started doing that, holy shit, the game completely changed. Like, 99.99% of the time it worked out. Okay. If I liked a chick, I would go in for a kiss, and most chicks were receptive to it. There was only like 2 chicks that weren't that receptive. There was one chick who was a hairdresser, and this was during COVID, and I went for a kiss, and she goes, oh no, not on a first date. And I go, no. Okay, fine. If you go in for a kiss and she's not interested, don't fucking call her back. Okay. She's just not interested. No big deal. Move on. Next chick. There's always another chick. Okay. And then there was another chick who I went in for a kiss, and she goes, oh, we're doing this now. And she still kissed me, but you could tell she just wasn't as into it. You know what I mean? Those were the only 2 problems. The rest of the time, like, chicks were totally into it. We had multiple dates and stuff like that. It was a good time. Okay, so getting back to this, he says, I don't want to come off as creepy or get rejected. See, that's what it is. It's a fear of rejection, right? You got to get over that. And you can only get over that fear of rejection by taking action. Okay. And so the action that you're taking is you're going in for a kiss. I don't want to, so I just wait. But the problem is, most of the time the opportunity passes, and I think she just ends up seeing me just as a friend. That's exactly it. Okay. If you, like, guys put themselves in the friend zone by acting friendly. If you act like a friend, She has no choice but to go, oh, he just wants to be friends. And then she puts you in the friend zone. Okay. Guys put themselves in the friend zone by not taking kind of an action that shows them, I'm not your friend. Okay. Going for a kiss is telling her straight up, I'm interested in you romantically. I don't want to be friends. All right. And if she's not into it, well, that's her loss. All right. Move on. Okay. So yeah, you always have to go for a kiss. And the thing is too, so I had my epiphany, right? Of, okay, screw it. I'm always going to go for a kiss. And then shortly after that epiphany and testing that out, I started reading all these different books, right? I was reading, I read Corey Wayne's How to Be a 3% Man. I read Doc Love's The System. I read No More Mr. Nice Guy. I read Dating Essentials for Men. I read all these books, right? Corey Wayne in How to Be a 3% Man says, always go for a kiss. It's the ultimate test of interest. Okay. So Corey Wayne agrees. And when I read that, I go, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. And after having tested it out, it makes perfect sense, right? Now, some different books will tell you this thing called the eyes, lips triangle test or something to that effect, right? But basically, if you're not sure if a girl wants to kiss you or not, if you look in this eye and then move over to this eye and then look down at her lips and then back over to this eye and then over to this eye and then down to her lips, if at any point you're doing that, she looks at your lips, she wants to kiss, she wants to be kissed. Okay. So you can do that in the middle of a date and go in for a kiss. Okay. But I found too that so women also do a lot of different body language things, signals. Red Pill Chick was doing this in the middle of the day. And like I said, this is when I was floundering on the dating circuit. I was using my hands to talk. I was explaining stuff from when I was in the Navy, and Nurse Chick reached out and grabbed my hands. And she goes, you're like landing airplanes over here, you know, with your hand, talking with your hands, you know, and so she grabbed my hands and held them. Okay. And I thought, okay. And so I'm just holding hands with this girl. No, women don't want to grab your hands and hold your hands if they're not into you. All right. And then at one point I went up to go order some more drinks because we were at a brewery, and she's standing in front of me, and then she starts nuzzling her butt into my crotch. Okay. Women don't just do that if they're not into you. Okay. But at that time, I'm waiting for literal written invitations for crap. And I was like, oh, she seems friendly. I think I might go for a kiss at the end of the day. I don't know. And then it was like, we went to a second venue, and the second venue was Applebee's. And that's where she just like attacked me in the parking lot. Right. And like I said, I was being such a pussy that I wasn't looking at these obvious signs. And I would have argued back then, it's not obvious, right? You don't want to make a move and get rejected, right? That's all just a fear of rejection. So you have to get over that. You absolutely have to get over that. Okay. But those are some like body language signals, right? If she's looking for an excuse to touch you, to get close to you, to bump into you, all that kind of stuff, she probably wants to be kissed, right? They also talk about, preening and pointing her toes at you and all this kind of stuff. These are all signs that she's into you, right? Whatever. But what I found is that a lot of women on first dates are just as nervous as you are, and they're not doing any of these things. At that point, you're like, what do I do? She's not doing she's not staring at my lips, right? She's not preening her hair. She's not trying to touch my hand. She seems kind of awkward and nervous. What do I do? Fucking go for a kiss. Okay. You walk her to her car. If you like her, go for a kiss. All right. That's what you do. You do it no matter what. If you like her, you go for a kiss. Always. Okay. And a lot of the black pill MGTOW guys will be like, I don't want to get arrested. And you're not going to get arrested. It's an innocent kiss. All right. It's not sexual assault. It's a kiss. You're going to be fine. And like I said, 99.99% of women are going to be receptive to it because it's a bold move. It's a bold, confident move, and women like bold, confident guys. Okay. You being a pussy waiting for a written invitation is not bold. It's not confident. It's passive. It's weak. And women find it unattractive. That's unattractive behavior. Okay. Let's see here. So he says at this point, I'm honestly second guessing myself. Should I even be out there dating right now, or should I take a step back? I feel like I'm wasting time and money, but at the same time, I don't want to give up. Fair. It's good that you don't want to give up. Okay. If you're getting frustrated, if you have been going out there and you're just striking out left and right, and you're blowing a lot of money, and you're starting to fucking hate life and starting to hate women, and you're starting to become black pill, it's good to take a break. It's good to take a break for a couple weeks, maybe a month, right? Just take some time off, get your head right, review some of the material, right? I've got books out there. This is my book on dating, Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18. The longest chapter in the book is dating and spinning plates, okay? It tells you like most of everything that you need to know. Go back, read some of this material, read my Holy Trinity of dating books, right? How to Be a 3% Man. These aren't my books. These are books that I studied on repeat for years. I'm still reading them. I try to revisit them like once a year, but How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne, Dating Essentials for Men by Dr. Robert Glover, and Atomic Attraction by Christopher Campbell. Okay. Those 3 books, read them on repeat for the next month. Okay. Don't give up completely though. Don't give up completely. Don't use this as an excuse to be a quitter. Nobody likes a quitter. All right. I know plenty of guys who said, well, I'm just going to take a break. I'm getting really frustrated. And that was like 2 years ago, and they still haven't gotten out dating. Okay. You know who you are. You know who you are. I'm talking to you. You guys, I know, you know who you are. All right. Stop. Don't be a pussy. Just take a couple of weeks off and then get back out there. All right. You're not gonna attract a great woman sitting on your fucking couch, not at least swiping on dating apps. Okay. That's one of the things I love about dating apps though, is you can literally meet women by sitting on your couch. Right. But you eventually have to meet them in person. Okay. You can't just chat with them on the fucking apps forever and think that you're in this fucking relationship. That's a lot of guys do that. And they're like, I have a long distance girlfriend. No, you don't. You have a fucking pen pal. All right. That's not a girlfriend. Stop that shit. All right. He says, any advice you have would be much appreciated. Well, I hope I gave a whole bunch, but here's one thing that I highly recommend, especially if this sounds like a guy who's probably back on the dating circuit after being married for like 10, 15, 20 years or something. Okay. If you haven't been out dating in years, go for a 12 for 12. Okay. That's 12 dates, 12 different women in a 12-week period. All right. I learned that from Dr. Robert Glover. And what I found with this, now this is the way Dr. Glover puts it out there. This is just for practice. Okay. So you can ask out ugly women. You can ask out old women. You can ask out fat women. It's just practice. You don't have to sleep with any of these chicks. It's just meet them for drinks. It's a one drink and done. But what you want to do is when you match with these chicks, especially on dating apps, practice bantering, practice being witty and fun and closing for dates. Okay. Because here's the thing about dating apps. Dating apps come down to 4 things. They come down to how you open. Okay. They come down to how you close, and they come down to your pictures and your bio. That's it. Okay. But you have to close. And what a lot of guys do is they waste days and weeks sometimes trying to build rapport on the dating app by chatting back and forth before they get up the courage to ask a woman out. Don't do that shit. Okay. The goal of a dating app is to meet people in person. So you only want to banter like 10, 15 messages tops. Okay. Sometimes like 8 to 10 is best, but you want to find a high point in the conversation, find a segue, and then set a definite date. All right. And get the fuck off the dating app. You build rapport in person. You get to know each other in person. Okay. So going back to the 12 for 12, what I found was that catfish dates are perfect for the 12 for 12. You don't have to go out of your way to match with ugly chicks, okay? Because ugly chicks tend to show up on dates when you're just on dating apps, okay? Because a lot of chicks use filters, they use different angles, they use pictures from 10 years ago, all that kind of shit. And so the way a lot of guys are avoiding that completely, which is fine. Like once you get good at dating, this is not a bad idea, but you have them do a video call with you first and do a vibe check video call. One, that puts a girl at ease. Two, it lets you know what you're actually working with. Okay. And then you can, avoid catfish. But if you don't have practice, if you've been out of practice for 10, 15 years, skip the fucking video thing and just go on these dates. All right. What you'll find is that there's a ton of catfish dates out there. And when the catfish show up, it's practice time. Okay. You can't have a run on Monday Night Raw with the WWE title without spending some time in NXT. Okay. At the training center, you got to go to the training center. These catfish are the training center. It helps you. When you go on these dates with these women, you're working on your body language, you're working on your bantering, you're working on letting her do 80% of the talking and you only doing 20% of the talking and being a mystery. All these kinds of things are going to help you when you actually meet up with a chick that you find attractive. Okay. When I met Nurse Chick, I had been on lots of good dates. I've been on lots of catfish dates and that I use for practice. And when I met Nurse Chick, I wasn't quite sure. Right. She sort of reverse catfished me. Her pictures weren't that great. And I was like, whatever. I'll go out with her. And when she walked into that Starbucks wearing these really tight ass jeans with her ass like pow, I was like, oh shit. This isn't a practice date. This is game time. All right, cool. Good thing I had all this fucking practice and I knocked that shit out of the park. I walked her to her car. I went for a kiss. She basically melted in my arms. And then I was like, all right, I got to go. And it was WrestleMania time. She got low census because she was working as a labor delivery nurse at the time. And they just didn't have enough patients that night. She was supposed to go to work that night. So she got low census. So she calls me up and she says, hey, so I don't have to go to work tonight. What are you up to? And I was already at home and I live an hour from her. And I said, well, I'm getting ready to watch WrestleMania. You're welcome to join me. And she said, okay, cool. Where do you live? And I sent her my address and she came all the way to my house. I knew at that moment, a woman's not going to come a 2-hour round trip to watch Wrestle fucking Mania. Okay. She was down. All I had to do was not put my foot in my mouth and things were going to work out. And now we're going on 5 years of this relationship. Okay. So guys, I was telling the guys in Wolfpack this, but I've broken down my proven strategy and I made a whole dating course about this. And what's cool about the dating course, especially if you're frustrated with dating apps, is I show you how to use social media like Facebook and Instagram to actually source women for dates. And it's a super effective way to meet chicks that you actually want to meet with, right? Because the problem with dating apps is you're sort of served up whatever they have available. But on Facebook and Instagram, it's kind of like a virtual cold approach. And you can actually source women you actually find attractive. It's kind of like Amazon shopping for chicks. So because my man is going through this problem, I know a bunch of you guys are too. I'm making my dating course that I called No Cold Approach in the Cow Pasture. I called it that years ago because when you live out in the middle of nowhere in cow country like me, you can't just go out cold approaching. There's no fucking chicks out here in the fucking cow pasture, right? Like the closest women to date are an hour from me in two different directions. So you have to get good at online dating. So I got really fucking good at online dating. So anyway, if you go to dates.comeonmanpod.com, use code AugustFlash at checkout for the next 24 hours, you can get it for $100 off. Okay. For the next 24 hours, the offer ends 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So go to dates.comeonmanpod.com. I dropped a link in the chat there. That link will automatically apply the code at checkout, but used code AugustFlash at checkout to take off $100, bro. Because if you haven't been out dating like in 15, 20 years, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different fucking world, man. Take this course. It will blow your fucking mind. All right. One of the guys that left a review, he used to be in the Wolfpack, and he's from Australia, and he actually lived out in the middle of fucking nowhere, about probably, I think, an hour or 2 hours outside of Perth, Australia. And he worked on like a fucking kangaroo ranch or something. I don't know, whatever they do in Australia, but he was on a ranch out in the middle of nowhere And he used all the tactics in the dating course to line up all sorts of chicks. So he left a really good review for that. But yeah, one of the things that I talk about is how to banter on dating apps. And you only want to do, like I said before, you only want to banter like 10, 15 messages before finding that segue to set that definite date. And don't book dates out more than 3 days in advance. Okay. If you book out dates more than 3 days in advance, the longer out that you book out, the higher the flake rate goes up. Okay. So if you can, ask her when she's free to get together. If it's within, 3 days, 4 days max, go ahead and say, hey, cool. Meet me at this place at this time on this day. Right. But if it's more than 4 days, what I would recommend is saying, okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll reach out in 4 days and see what your schedule's like. Okay. Or let's say she says it's like 7 days out. What you can do is like, okay, cool. I have a great place that I want to take you. I'll reach out in 4 days and give you the details. Okay. But that's when you really want to set that date so that it's closer to the time you're meeting up. Otherwise, women are flakier and shit. They are so fucking flaky. It's ridiculous. But they also have more options than you. Okay. So it's the name of the game. This is why we spin plates. This is why we keep our options open ourselves and try to keep sourcing women, because you're going to get flaked on. You are. All right. That's just a name of the game. Everybody gets flaked on. If anybody out there tells you that they've never been flaked on, they are a fucking liar. They are a fucking liar. Okay. And then after the date, because you said one and done, this is one of the things that I found myself doing on the 11 months that I was floundering after my divorce is I was trying to make every girl I went on a date with my fucking girlfriend, right? I was super needy, and that neediness, like women can smell neediness like sharks smell blood, man. And if you like just seem desperate and needy, they're going to smell it. They're going to turn off. Okay. This is why we only do 20% of the talking. We try to remain a mystery. She's got to figure you out. This builds investment. She wants to invest by figuring you out. Women want to, they want to live in a love story, and you can't give the story away. And most guys are giving too much away. They're trying to lock these chicks down in relationships because they hate the dating circuit so much that they're trying to just make everybody their girlfriend. Stop doing that shit. Okay. Women need to lock you down. They need to lock you down. That's not your job. Okay. Your job is to facilitate fun and fuck, the 3 F's. All right. So that being said, after a date, what I recommend is don't text her or anything after you get home from the date. Just tell her, like, after you go in for a kiss, say, okay, cool. Well, I'll talk with you soon. Okay. That can mean I'll talk to you tomorrow. That can mean I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. It leaves her wondering, oh, soon. What does that mean? Right. It leaves her wondering. You're being a mystery. So I'll talk to you soon. Don't text her when you get home. Don't text her the next day. Don't be good morning text guy, first of all, but don't text her the next day. What I found is the sweet spot is you wait the next day at around 6 p.m. after the workday. Okay. That gives her all day the next day to wonder if you had a good time, if you liked her or not. All this kind of stuff. Women start getting they start getting anxiety about this sort of thing. Did he like me? Especially if they like you, right? Oh, did he like me? I don't know. I didn't hear from him. I hope everything's going okay, right? You get that fucking hamster wheel going, and then at 6 p.m. you relieve that. Okay, you have to give the hamster a place to go, right? You relieve that tension by just texting her, "Hey, I had a great time. Just wanted you to know." And that's it. Don't try to set a date then. Don't try to do anything. Now you want to wait about 2 or 3 days after that. Don't text in between. All right. A lot of you guys are fucking textaholics. Stop that shit. All right. You have to be a mystery. The less you're texting, the more she's thinking that you have other options. Even if you don't have other options, doesn't matter. She thinks you do. And women like men who other women like. If they think you have other options, you become more attractive to them. It's pre-selection. Okay. You can artificially create this feeling of pre-selection by acting in a certain way. Okay. By being a mystery, you're creating this illusion. The best thing is to have multiple options and actually have dates, but until you build that up, this is how you have to act. Okay. So then after 2 or 3 dates, now you want to reopen her with like a callback to the date, maybe a funny meme you saw that reminds you of her, whatever. You want to start the conversation again, and you're starting from ground zero. You got to banter back and forth, 10, 15 messages before you ask her when she's free to get together again. Okay. But that's how you do it. Okay. That's in a big part of this is not being needy, not pushing for stuff, not texting her all the fucking time, being a mystery, being a man of purpose, right? Makes you more of an attractive guy. So guys, if you want to learn more about this, I really go in depth on this. It's like it's like a 9-hour course, I think. Hold on. How many hours is this course? It's a pretty in-depth course. It is, it's 9 modules. It's 5.25 hours, 9 modules of this course that really breaks down all the nuts and bolts of this, all the psychology of it. If you guys are floundering on the dating circuit, get this course, take the deal. It's $100 off for the next 24 hours. Drop a link in the chat again, but check that out. Other than that, let me check the messages here and then we'll wrap up. Let's see here. Kamal says, that's why it's called the snowflake generation. Oh, man. Hey, David's in the house. What's up? Paul, that hat is badass. Dude, I know. Bro, I know. I don't wear it that much on the podcast because it bumps into the fucking everything. Oh, man. Yes, Nurse Chick admitted octopus to the face. Don't ever change, babe. Don't ever change. She loves the hat. She's Nurse Chick, you don't have to send me $2. Okay. Although I appreciate it. And you automatically get this thing anyway.
So naughty.
I'm going to come.
Friday. You know it. You know it. All right. Oh, and Miles says, Paul, I'm glad you're here. I've been feeling lame today. Oh, well, that sucks. We can't have that. Hopefully this episode cheered you up, brother. Hopefully this episode cheered you up. All right, guys, that's all we got. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys want to sponsor a video like this, you can by going to video.comeonmanpod.com, and I will make a dedicated video just for you, just like I did for my man here. And, no matter what you're going through, if it's a relationship issue, a breakup issue, dating issue, I'm your man. You can sponsor a video by going to video.comeonmanpod.com. That's all we got. Tune into the podcast tomorrow. What are we talking about tomorrow? Man, I'm a busy guy. Yes, we are talking about 20 different reasons why women file for divorce. And some of these are pretty shocking. I think you guys will like these ones. Tune into that tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We'll see you then. Otherwise, a good one.
Got a letter from a man in deep. Said his house ain't a home and he's losing sleep. Wife cold as steel, vibe off track. Asked me how the hell to get his edge back.